President Obama is doing all he can to win support for his sweeping Pacific trade agreement ahead of next week's crucial vote in the House.
The president is pulling out all the stops right now. That includes interviews with television stations in key states, including here in California. This week, I traveled to the White House to speak with the president about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the 12-nation pact that the president says is key to his second-term agenda and its potential impact on San Diego. My first question, why trade and why now?
First of all, there are a whole bunch of things I'm focused on, and what ties them all together is how do we make sure we're growing the economy for the middle class and people who are working hard to try to get into the middle class. That means raising minimum wage. That means increasing sick leave for families. That means rebuilding our infrastructure. One of the things it also means, though, is making sure we can sell American goods and products in markets all around the world. And right now, we don't have the kind of trade arrangements we should. Everybody's able to sell here, but we're not always able to sell there. And what this part of the agenda does, this trade authority, is it allows me to negotiate a better deal for American workers and American businesses. About a third of the economic recovery that we've undergone since I came into office is because we've increased exports. And we know that not only does it create billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs here in the United States, but what it also does is creates good jobs. Jobs with companies that export typically pay about 18% more than jobs that don't. So this is part of a broader agenda to make sure that the economy is working for everybody. And if we're able to negotiate a deal where other countries have to meet high labor standards and high environmental standards just like we do, and if their markets are as open as ours, that's going to be good for our companies, and it's going to be good for California, which obviously is a gateway into the Pacific.
San Diego is the 17th largest economy in the U.S. We have some huge businesses there. After NAFTA, that didn't necessarily translate into local jobs, though. So when people hear terms, descriptions of the Trans-Pacific Agreement, that this is sort of an extension of NAFTA, if you will, that worries a lot of people, especially because, as with a lot of trade agreements, there is a certain amount of secrecy going along with it. How can you allay those fears for San Diegans?
Well, first of all, there's not going to be a lot of secrecy on this, because before I sign an agreement, the entire agreement is going to have to be posted for 60 days. All I'm getting right now is the authority to negotiate it. And once a potential deal is closed, before I even sign it, for 60 days everybody's going to have a chance to read it, every line, every T that's crossed, every I that's dotted. Then I sign it, and Congress will have months of debate after that before they get a chance for an up or down vote. So people will be able to see whether, in fact, this trade agreement is doing what it's supposed to. The difference between this deal and NAFTA is, first of all, we have enforceable labor and environmental provisions that didn't exist under NAFTA. But the second thing is that the economy's changed. Companies that rely on low-wage labor, they've already left. Our advantage in California and all across the country is in high tech, it's in entertainment, it's in agriculture, it's in high-value, high-skilled jobs, and that's where we can really do best. That's where we've got to open up these new markets so that we can access those jobs, and if we do, then the economy is going to go stronger, and we're going to have more opportunity for everybody.
You find yourself in the unusual position heading into the final year of your presidency of trying to push through an agreement that has a lot of Republican support but has left a lot of Democrats divided. Why is that? Well,
I think that it's understandable that a lot of folks, let's say in labor unions, feel that over the last 20 years their incomes and wages have flatlined. Folks at the very top have done very well, stock market's done well, corporate profits have been high. So people, I think, are concerned with inequality. They see a connection between globalization and inequality. And I share their values, but what I've told them is that globalization's here to stay. And so we need to work on raising the minimum wage. We need to make sure that we're rebuilding our infrastructure, sick leave for families, making sure that there's equal pay for women, making sure that the tax system is fair and we're closing corporate loopholes and giving middle-class families a break. That's the shared agenda we have. But we've got to grow the economy at the same time, and we still got to compete. And I've always measured what I should do, not based just on party, but what I think is right for the economy and for the American people. And it's rare where I'm on the other side of some Democrats on this issue, but I've looked at the facts, and I'm confident that this is the right thing to do, not for big business. It's the right thing to do for ordinary Americans who I've been fighting for ever since I came into office.
Does former Secretary Clinton support the plan?
She was Secretary of State, obviously, when we started the negotiations. I'll let you ask her that question when you see her, but I think that folks who are familiar with what's happening in Asia understand that that's where the growth market's going to be. San Diego will directly benefit if, in fact, we are expanding trade with a region of the world that's the most populous and is the fastest growing. And increasingly, they're going to be hungry for the high-end products that we offer. But we got to make sure that if the Japanese can sell cars here in the United States, we can sell outstanding American cars in Japan. That if they, in fact, can ship things to us, then we want them to have a taste of American beef and fruits and vegetables. Those all go through docks in San Diego. That increases jobs, and that's a central part of the California economy. So this is the right thing to do, and this is not the only fight we're going to have, though. And I think generally on issues like minimum wage, equal pay, immigration reform, those tend to be fights where me and Democrats have to duke it out with the Republicans. But my North Star is always what's going to be best for the American people.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Now, we reached out to San Diego's 5 congressional representatives, and we asked them what they think about the president's trade proposal. We heard back from 2 of them, both Democrats. Representative Susan Davis said, "I'm still looking at the trade bills, listening to constituents, talking to the experts, and discussing these issues with my colleagues. I remain at the table to try and push the administration and my colleagues to make TPA and any subsequent trade deals that could result from its passage the best deal for all of my constituents." And Representative Scott Peters said in part, "I still have questions about whether this agreement gives us the authority we need to ensure tough, enforceable standards to protect workers and to keep our air and water clean. And I've spent enormous time reading the law, asking hard questions, and listening to San Diegans. I want every one of my questions answered before I make a decision." Coming up in our second half hour tonight, a look behind the scenes of my trip to Washington. I'll give you a little peek into the White House through my photos and through video captured by CBS News 8 photojournalist Kenny McGregor.